Hello, you're listening to Hugo Talks, and today I'm talking about this interview on Sky News with Michael Gove about the pandemic and the 30 to 6 new rule. Michael, he is the Duchy of Lancaster, and he used to be high up in the government, archetypal company man, a puppet, a muppet. You couldn't trust this guy to tie up his shoes properly. Let's see what he says in this interview.
Foremost, we've got this rule of 6 coming into force on Monday. There are real concerns, aren't there, about this, how it is managed, how it's enforced, and also why children under 12 are not exempt from this rule of 6 in England.
So, did you hear that? Children under the age of 12 are not exempt from this rule of 6, which means, say you have a family of 6, okay, and your 1-year-old is having a birthday next week, and you got the grandparents, grandma and granddad, they're coming over to bring presents for his first birthday. It means now two of you from that family are going to have to leave the house in order for granny and grandma to come round. For example, someone online was talking about Christmas this year and said, "I'm hosting Christmas this year. There will be 8 of us, my hubby and me and our 2 kids, as well as my 82-year-old mum, my sister, brother-in-law and our niece. My 11-year-old niece is adopted. If Boris thinks I'm going to deprive that precious child of a fun Christmas day with the people who love her most in the world, he's got another think coming." Alright, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's continue.
Yes, you're absolutely right. There are new restrictions on social gatherings that come into force on Monday. The rule of 6, as you quite rightly point out, no more than 6 people meeting together inside or out. One of the reasons for the rule is it's a simple measure that commands public confidence that's required because we've seen, as you've been reporting, an increase in the rate of infection.
Yeah, you have seen an increase in infections, but saying that, there has also been a massive increase in testing, which would see, relatively, the number of people infected increase alongside the increase in testing, as well as the number of people who have tested negative. That will also increase. And now I see the government are sending out letters offering families £50 to do testing for a year or more, and I'll get onto that a little later.
We've seen the infection rate increase in France and in Spain and other European countries, and as a result more people in hospital, and tragically more people dying and more people suffering really bad health outcomes. So that's why we're taking these steps.
But it's not simple, is it? I mean, this is part of the concern, that these new rules are confusing. Not only this, but then of course you've got slightly different rules in England because those under 12 are included in the 6 where they're not in other parts of the UK. There's a big question about as to whether you can sort of still go out and eat and how you can mingle in restaurants and bars and all this sort of scenario. I mean, it is a confusing situation, isn't it?
I don't think so. I do reckon.
I don't think so. Is he having a laugh? I don't think so. We all bloody well know so, and it is so confusing and it doesn't make any sense. You have one rule for England, another rule for Scotland, different rules for Northern Ireland and Wales. Kids are going to school, students in universities all mingling together in classes of 30, yet under 12s are not exempt at home, outside, eh? People can go to work. What about all those meat factories where the pandemic was running rampant just a little while ago? That's okay, is it? That works fine? No, it's not confusing at all.
Sort of scenario. I mean, it is a confusing situation, isn't it?
I don't think so. I do recognise that there are lots of questions out there. One of the purposes of a conversation like this is to try to reinforce what I think is a pretty straightforward message. One of the reasons why we've chosen the rule of 6 is it's well understood.
Look, I understand it. I understand what you're saying. It still doesn't make any sense though. If the rule of 6 doesn't apply to people at work, going out for a meal, kids in school and universities, but families can't meet up at home over 6, yet at the same time those families can individually go to work or go to school and meet up with loads of people every day, it doesn't make any sense.
And as I mentioned earlier, it commands public confidence. The public understand and recognise that...
This is just waffle padding. Heard all this before. All right, now check this out.
I mean, you say it's straightforward. In order to preserve life, we have to kill the country. If we kill the country, we have no life. It's a catch-22. That is why the messaging is so confusing and why people are so confused. That's the words of your wife in the Mail on Wednesday.
Well, I love my wife. She's...
He didn't ask if you loved your wife. Anyhow, this guy is actually married. He found himself a wife. Really? Didn't think he was the type to get married. Anyway, his wife, she did say that in the Daily Fail this week. She said, to preserve life, we have to kill the country. If we kill the country, we have no life. Catch-22. We are all screwed, basically. Maybe they should get her on the show. Sounds like she's more honest.
Well, I love my wife. She's a brilliant columnist. But when it comes to government policy here, I think that the really important thing to bear in mind is that we're stressing the importance of the economy and education. And we're saying that people should be at work. I think that's a good thing.
I mean, look, I don't think anyone can actually stand up straight and say there is a very clear solution to how to deal with this, because quite obviously there isn't. But when we're in this situation where we've got some pretty severe local lockdowns coming we're in force already, some more coming into force on Tuesday, when the R rate, we're told, is sort of 1.2 and in some places possibly 1.7 and hitting a critical level, you can understand why people are saying, is now actually the time to be sending children back to school? Is that safe and sensible? Is it right that students are going back to university? Is this all going to bring about the major second wave that people are so concerned about?
It is absolutely right for children to be back at school, and it is safe and it is sensible, and it's absolutely right for people to be at work. And
the host is right. It's sending a completely mixed message. On one hand, they're saying we must put in more restrictions. It is imperative you don't socialise in more than 6 people yet. All kids can go back to school. University students, it's all open. Work is fine. If it's really that bad, then just start the lockdown across the board again. Is it really that bad?
Employers and trade unions and the government have worked together in order to make sure that there are clear rules which broadcasters...
And he just waffles on, going through the motions. When is this going to ever end? In the next 2 years? 5 years? 10 years' time? Look at this letter that's being sent out to families, offering them money to participate in testing. They are offering £50 for the first test, £25 a test thereafter for 12 months. How many families and people are getting this letter, and how much is this going to cost the government? It's what, a family of 4 that will cost the government £1,800 over the year or something like that. When did they start paying for testing? I don't know what's going on. So much confusion. The whole world's gone a bit mad. And these so-called leaders, are not helping whatsoever, sending out these confusing and contrasting rules and mixed messages. It makes you wonder if they are doing it on purpose to keep us all confused and bewildered. Oh well. As always, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe and press that notification bell if you want to be notified in the future when I upload videos.